Saints blowing out again. Plus, fire Dennis Allen now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is First Down Saints. This hombre behind me looks upset. And he looks upset because the Saints lose again. 6 straight losses, this time to the Los Angeles Chargers. Was never close. 28-6. Disgusting, despicable display. We're going to listen to what this fella's got to say about the situation. We're going to react like only we can do.
All right, everybody, here it is. It's the weekly video at this point. The video after a Saints blowout loss. The Saints lost to the LA Chargers today. And again, it's their 6th straight loss on the season.
Yeah, ugly.
6th straight loss on the
Bowling
season.
shoe
And this
ugly.
was a game where you got a lot of guys back from injury. You've been using that injury excuse for a while now. And
Correct. So before we said, look, it's Mason Tipton, it's Bub Means, it's Connor McGovern, it's who the hell even knows at left guard. We're in dire straits. And we did get a lot of people back. Cesar Ruiz, Lucas Patrick, Chris Olave, Taysom Hill, Pete Werner. Okay, we're rocking and rolling. Like leading into the Chargers game, I came on here in front of God and everyone and said, look, this is the spot for the Saints. We got a lot of people back, a lot of important people back who may be undervalued by the public, and smash spot for the Saints schedule-wise, 10 days of rest versus the Chargers' 5 days of rest. Did any of that matter? No, didn't matter at all, because what we got was a listless, gutless performance from the Saints that resulted in 3.5 hours of complete misery.
it's valid, right? They have a lot of guys hurt.
Yeah.
You got a lot of them back today, and they got blew out again, right?
Yes.
And like I said, 6 straight loss, and this is the 4th loss in a row that the Saints have lost by double-digit points, okay? 4 straight losses by double-digit points.
Call it what it is. 4 straight loss where we were not competitive at all. Like, whatsoever. Let me get you in the way back machine, ladies and gentlemen, because the last time my heart rate went up at all watching a Saints game was the last drive against the Falcons. That was it. After that, there has not been a moment in any Saints game where I've thought, damn, we're about to win this. Damn, we're in this. Damn, this is a good game. Wow, this is a hell of a performance. This is a back and forth affair. Has not been that. The Buccaneers game had a brief moment of that, but it was after we went down 17-0. And it was for about 7 minutes until we got dog walked at home in the second half and didn't score. So, it's until the very end on a garbage time touchdown. But not only is it 6 straight losses, not only is it 4 straight non-competitive losses, out of those 6 games, because Philly was not a good performance. Yes, we were close. Atlanta, judge it how you will, the first half was fine, but we still had some horrible miscues in that game. You're talking about 6 straight games now where if you're grading on a curve, I don't think you can give the Saints maybe a C effort, C performance. Effort's the wrong word. A C performance against Atlanta, but everything else is like D performance, F, D, D. I mean, nothing has been good. So 6 weeks of absolute garbage on the field.
That is unacceptable. That is just, it's pathetic in the NFL.
It is pathetic. Yes.
Okay, we're not, Alabama beating up on West Virginia Mountain University Tech, okay? This 4 straight losses of double-digit points, it's just unexcusable. Like, it's inexcusable. Like, but remember, guys, Mickey Loomis wants us all to look beyond the results.
Okay, one thing that I'll say, and this is important because I hear a lot of this, everything is fluid. Like, things are fluid in life, and they're fluid in the NFL. So, like, for example, after the Chargers game, a lot of people are quick to chirp and say, where are you at on Spencer Rattler now? And it's like, yeah, he had a bad game. Like, no, I'm not, what I said a week ago about that game does not always count, like, for this game. Things can change. Just like what people said about Jaden Daniels after the Buccaneers game, I'm sure they're not saying about him after the Hail Mary pass. So just like I always say, you can't be a knee-jerk reaction kind of person. You can't say, oh, we won, we're the greatest. Oh, we lost, fire everyone. Like, that kind of a mindset is not the way to go. So when Loomis says you got to look past the results whenever the team is banged up, whenever we have a USFL offensive line, whenever we're losing on, the Falcons situation or even the Eagles situation, like that has some credence to it. Like, yeah, we lost a couple weeks ago, okay? Like, let's say the Broncos game. You lose to the Broncos. It sucks, no doubt about it. But you do kind of have to look past it and say, I mean, listen, man, like that roster we rolled out against Denver probably doesn't win the SEC. So I understand it there. Now, I don't understand it for this. If after this game he came out and said, look past the results, it would be like, brother, that makes no sense at all. So I'm not a fan of when we take either results or performances, or just like after Denver. After Denver, a lot of people said, this is the Saints, not what we saw against Dallas. And to me, I would say, and that's not even close to being true, because the team against Denver was mostly players who we've already waived. Like mostly players we've already released. Mostly players that were only playing because of injury, and now that other people are healthy, they're off the team. We've seen Abrams released, Jordan Mims released. We've seen all these players released who are getting pivotal minutes in those games. So, got to be careful when you take a fluid idea and you make it a static idea.
We got to look beyond the results, guys. Just, and during the very first drive of this game, the Saints come out on defense. They look good on defense. They look better this entire game on defense than they have, the past few weeks, which isn't saying much, right? There were still missed tackles, still explosive plays that they allowed, but they looked good. The first drive, they come out, they get a stop. Saints get the ball. And, every single week or every single time the Saints play, Dennis Allen does something early in the game to remind me how much of an absolute loser he actually is. So, like I said, first drive, Saints defense gets the stop, Saints offense gets the ball.
Yeah, the 3rd and 1 play was bad, and then the decision to punt is equally as bad.
They get around the 50-yard line, and they get to a 4th and 1.
Yeah.
50-yard line, 4th and 1. Your team is sitting at 2-5.
Your opponent averages 17 points per game. You have Taysom Hill. Like, yeah, I agree. You definitely should go for that.
And you punt the ball.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is such a loser with a loser mentality. He coaches scared. There's just no redeeming quality about Dennis Allen at this point.
I'll say this though, like I love Clint Kubiak like a brother, but he was coaching scared too, and he was coaching like a loser too. The amount of screens, horizontal pass, the lack of verticality in the passing game with Spencer Rattler, like Kubiak was coaching to lose. He was coaching to win this game 5-0. I mean, he might as well have been coaching the Dodgers. So, as much as I want to say Dennis Allen sucks, and he does, Kubiak, I thought, was way too conservative for a guy who's coaching a 2-5 team. All right, real quick, I want to show y'all something, because I keep referencing this, but if you look at like the only thing I will not agree with, as much as the game sucked, and it did suck, the performance itself was kind of weird. Because the performance itself was not that bad. It was bad in totality. It was bad with the final score. It was bad watching. It was miserable and all that stuff. But I want to put into context what like a really bad performance looks like compared to our performance. All right, now look at the Bears game when they played the Texans on, I think it was Sunday Night Football in like week 3 or something. The Bears had 205 total yards of offense. The Bears averaged 3.1 yards per play. The Bears had 134 yards passing for a 3 yards per pass. They were sacked 7 times. They ran the ball for 3.2 yards per rush and had 2 turnovers with 9 penalties. This is a horrific performance. Even Houston, who won this game, 5.1 yards per play, 6 yards per pass, 3.4 yards per rush, 12 penalties, a turnover. Like, there's some really ugly stuff happening right here, okay? If you look at the Saints game, if you look at 366 total yards, 5.4 yards per play, 5.1 yards per play is league average. So 5.4 is above average. 249 passing, 5.3 yards per pass is low for sure. 5 sacks, 117 yards rushing for a 5.6 yards per rush. 7 penalties, not great, no turnovers. You look at this, it's like, okay, this is a workable situation here. And I'm saying this to say that I've kind of gone back and forth with this as well. Because immediately after the game, I was like, that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. It made me want to quit watching football and watch WCW Nitro reruns. That's how bad it was. And then I dig into this box score, and I'm like, well, actually, we did some good stuff. Like, we ran the ball really effectively. You know, like, you look at this, and you're like, well, that was pretty good. Like, yeah, we had a 24-yard run that Alvin's long 24, but we were pretty good on the ground. Like 21 for 117 is pretty gnarly. I'll take that. Like 21 for 117 for a 5.6 yards per rush. That is damn good. It's better than what Los Angeles did. So that's like, okay, that's pretty good. You look at Chris Olave, eight catches for 107 yards and 14 targets. All right, let's rock and roll, baby. We're getting Olave finally over 100 yards. The box score and no turnovers. Okay, let's go. The box score is not that of a 26-8 loss. Now that's not to say like, you know, that's not to say feel good about the game. That's not to say that the loss doesn't matter. That's not to say it didn't suck. It wasn't, you know, because visually it was not good. But just sometimes we can be so close to things that they seem horrible when they may not. Like, it's a weird thing, because even as I'm saying it, I don't want to say it may not be as bad as it seems, because it is absolute trash. But then again, it's like, well, 6 yards rush is pretty damn good. You know, 100 yards through the air with Chris Olave is pretty damn good. Like, yeah, okay. Again, like if you go back to this, the only thing that I can see on the box score that's actually like physically making me want to vomit on my keyboard is 2 for 16 on third down. And if you look at all this, like the Chargers are kind of step in step with us. They're right there in everything. We're better than them in most things. The red zone, obviously not good. Like we were only in the red zone once. You know, so there is some context to this. There is a little bit to this where you can't just say like, oh, well, we're great here, we're great here, we're great here. Because yeah, you're never in the red zone. You're awful on third down. You know, like that. Some of that stuff does factor into this, but the box score really isn't giving 26-8, and there is some positive in that box score. Now, again, I do not want to read comments saying that I'm talking about the box score is good, so that the game is good, so that the loss doesn't matter. The loss does matter. Visually, it was unappealing. Visually, it was hard to watch. Dennis Allen should be fired. The Saints season is over. It's a lost season. I agree with all that. I'm just saying there is some intricacies to the sky is falling conversation.
Like it's you're at the 50-yard line, dude. You're 2-5. Go for it, man.
Yep, agreed.
Go for it.
No doubt.
Set the tone. But no, you want to punt the ball away. The Saints ended up, you know, and I want to make something clear, right? It's not about the Saints. I mean, it is about them losing a bunch of games in a row, obviously, right? But at the same time, it's like, okay, if the Saints are losing games, you know, and you want to use the injury excuse, even though they got a lot of guys back today, not the quarterback, but if you want to use the injury excuse, you got to at least make the games somewhat competitive. It's not about that they've lost so many games in a row. It's just they're not even being competitive in these games.
Yeah, I think that's hard. I think that's hard for the fans. Like I do agree, like for a viewer, for a fan of the team, it is miserable. But on the same token, like again, the game against Denver, you are not going to be competitive in that game when you have a USFL level offensive line and your number 1 and number 2 wide receivers are Bub Means and Mason Tipton against a top 5 defense in the NFL. I understand, like, yeah, you want it to be competitive, no doubt about it. But you got Spencer Rattler on his second start on short rest. Because remember, we played, you know, it was like a 4-day turnaround. So a lot of stuff was stacked up. So I'm with you. I want these games to be competitive, no doubt about it. But in those situations, like the games that should have been competitive were the Chiefs game. That game should have been competitive. The games where we should have won, Philadelphia, Atlanta, no doubt about it. But the Chargers game should have been competitive for sure. Bucks, Broncos, those two, really bad spot for us. But especially when you factor in Olave getting hurt so early. But yeah, I mean, we absolutely should have had the absolutely should have been competitive with the Chiefs. Absolutely should have been competitive against the Chargers. Absolutely should have been competitive / should have won at Atlanta and against Philly at home.
4 straight blowouts. That is just it's unacceptable, and it's insulting that the Saints front office continues to punish us fans every single week by putting this product out on the field. And you know what? Nothing will change, because the only people that truly care about what is happening with the Saints right now is the fans. We're the only ones that care, because you know why? Their check still cashes no matter what. Their check still cashes. And the Saints, in this game, end up making a quarterback change in the third quarter. I think it was the right move. I think
I agree.
I think Hainer came in, and any quarterback coming in as a backup in the middle of a game, when you didn't take those reps during the week, when you didn't, game plan to be the starter, it's tough, right? But I think
they're both the same. I think they're the exact same kind of player right now, where if we're using Madden ratings, like Hainer's a 73, Rattler's a 70. They think Rattler has a little more upside, a little more to develop, so that's why they start him. Rattler didn't have it today. You switch to Hainer. He plays like a 73. It is what it is. I thought he did give a spark, but they're both just kind of whatever players right now.
He came in and he looked better than Rattler. Now again, that's not saying much, right? But he definitely looked better than Rattler. He's more decisive with the ball. Spencer Rattler right now, he's shown why he was a late round pick. Yeah. He's just not ready to be out on the field. He's not passing the eye test. He doesn't look good on film. And one thing you look for when you play a young quarterback is he getting better week by week? And that just wasn't the case for Spencer Rattler. So no problems from me on the benching. Again, Derek Carr should be back soon, probably I think next week. And that's the part that kind of like, it's unfortunate. But so the receiving core in this game, like, it doesn't matter who is out there at quarterback. The receiving core is just not helping these guys out. Rattler put some balls on the money that were dropped. Jake Hainer.
Yeah, there's a lot of drops. There's a lot of it's just not. I said this last year, but whenever you finish a game and you're like, man, we just had drops, man, we were just getting mossed on, man, we were just giving up big plays, man, we just had some untimely penalties, man, we just did this, we just did that. At the end of that sentence, it's like, well, you're kind of just describing a bad team. We all want more from this team, but at this point, they've kind of showed us that, they're just kind of a whatever team. We don't want there to be drops. Yeah, we don't want there to be explosive plays given up. Yeah, we don't want there to be penalties. Yeah, we don't like all that stuff. True. But at the same time, you see it all, and to improve all of that is basically just improving the team to be a good team. And I mean, at this point, it's just not a good team. It's not a team. If everything's clicking, everything's working, yeah, they can win games for sure. I mean, we saw that early on. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just an average team right now, banged up and playing well below average. Like, that's kind of the answer to it. And I've used this metaphor before, and I'll use it again. But it's like, we're a restaurant right now with just no ingredients or bad cooks or no resources, and it's like, fire the head chef. It's like, okay, well, sweet, we fired the head chef. We still don't have good cooks. We still don't have the ingredients we need. So it's just kind of a lost situation. I mean, that's like the unsexiest answer, because you got to kind of sit back and just kick your feet up and deal with it. But you're 2-6. You don't really have the horses on the field. I mean, Chris Olave, like I said, he had 8 catches for 100 and something yards, and there's still moments where he has huge key drops that kill drives, and like, yeah, there's some players that are playing good at moments, but then they play horrible at other moments. And Alontae Taylor looks like the best player on the defense for the entire season, but then he gets mossed by Ladd McConkey. And, Kool-Aid does a lot of good things, and Kool-Aid's in prime position on coverage, but then he's also simultaneously giving up these huge plays. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, Kool-Aid's good. I like what I see, but that was just a 45-yard pass he gave up. I like what I'm seeing here. Oh, we're punting. Oh man, wow, Kendra Miller, great run. Oh, he's hurt. Kendra Miller, like my timeline was full of Kendra Miller's the future. Kendra Miller this, Kendra Miller that. He's 3 for 16. Sweet. What's that get you? $3 gets you that, and that gets you a cup of coffee. So it's just a bunch of nothing right now. And I think as fans, we expect a lot every game. We expect competency, we expect whatever, but I think we're expecting something that this team just cannot deliver to us right now. And they've proven that. And that is a miserable watching experience.
Here comes in, big third down. He hits Chris Olave right in between two defenders, right in the chest with the ball, and he drops it on a huge third down. I can't remember if it was the very next drive or the drive after that, but you get to a huge third down, right? You have a penalty, of course, that backs you up.
Yep.
Third down,
boom. Field goal.
Hayner puts the ball on Alvin Kamara's chest. Kamara drops it. Like, even the best players on your team are just not performing up to standard.
But like Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, I'm not saying this is the reason why, but one guy's coming off of a concussion. One guy has a broken hand. Like, when I watched Alvin Kamara, when I watched that ball fly off of his hands on the little Texas route he did, first thought was like, Alvin, damn, bro, you're like our best player. You got to catch that. And then I'm thinking, well, he does have a broken hand. It's not an excuse, but there's just, like we want this product that just is not available right now.
When that happens, you just have to look at coaching, because it just is what it is, right? We know these are good players that are just not performing up to the standard. And I spoke a little bit on the defense earlier. I think the defense did look better. I think the tackling wasn't great, but it did look better. But it just doesn't matter because, again, they give up those explosive plays. I mean, Ladd McConkey, rookie, you would have thought he was Calvin Johnson out there today.
But I mean, exactly what I'm talking about. Like, he says, like, when these things happen, you got to look at coaching. I don't think so. I do think Dennis Allen should be fired. I think he sucks. But when I'm watching Alontae Taylor in perfect position getting mossed by Ladd McConkey, unless Dennis Allen can stop time, walk out there and move Alontae Taylor so he doesn't get mossed, like watching Kool-Aid be in position to intercept the ball, but all of a sudden it's a 50-yard catch. Like, they are in the position, like they're there. Same with Alvin Kamara. Like, Alvin Kamara's on that Texas route, wide ass open, off of his hands. Is that Clint Kubiak's fault that he didn't catch it? No, I would say it's Clint Kubiak's to credit that he has him wide open. Chris Olave, a couple of those where he's wide open. Jawan Johnson, he's wide open, and something happens. And it's like, you kind of got to put your hands up. I don't blame the wide receiver coach. I don't blame Clint Kubiak for Chris Olave with the drop. Like, the players have to perform. The players have to perform. You can only blame the player in that situation.
It's now that I think we have the Panthers next week. The Saints play the Panthers next week
on the road.
And if there's a team that's worse than the New Orleans Saints right now, it's the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, we're 7-point favorites on the road. Like, we should absolutely roll the Panthers. Panthers are horrific. Now, the only thing is, will Dalton be back? If Dalton's back, that's a huge upgrade over Bryce Young. But yeah, I mean, we should definitely beat the Panthers.
Right, and Carr will be back. So it's unfortunate because, and again, I never want to see the Saints lose. I'll never root for the Saints to lose. But, Carr is going to come back. The Saints are going to beat the Panthers. And I just feel like that's just going to give Mickey Loomis the ammo that he needs to just tell everybody again to look beyond the results and stay calm. Now we got our quarterback. He's back, and we're like, dude, shut up, man. Just stop being intent with just losing and losing and losing. You would think after spending, the better part of 2 decades with a guy like Sean Payton, that you would at least have more of a winner's mindset than you do. But because right now you don't care. At least that's what you're showing us by continuing to employ this guy by the name of Dennis Allen as your head.
I don't understand this part. I mean, I really don't. Like, I don't understand. Like, I I do think Dennis Allen should be fired, but I don't think firing Dennis Allen right now does anything except quenches the like bloodlust that the fans have. It doesn't actually do anything on the field. It's not going to make Alvin Kamara catch that pass. It's not going to make whatever offensive lineman not jump on the third down. It's not going to make Blake Grupe make that field goal. It's not going to make Alontae Taylor not get mossed by Ladd McConkey. Like those are. It's not going to make Eric McCoy's groin reattach. It's not going to reverse time to where we're not injured. Like it's happened. It is what it is. We're 2-6. Like what do we really like? This whole idea of like Mickey Loomis is just complacent or whatever with this. I just don't understand it. I mean, a lot of bad stuff has happened. It's been unfortunate. We've lost a lot of games. It's not fun. I'm not enjoying this. But the idea that I just don't. I don't know. I think it's just It's almost like saying. It is like saying if you're a Panthers fan, could you imagine being like, if the Panthers really wanted to win, they'd fire Dave Canales. It's like that's the least of their problems. The Panthers roster sucks. Like they suck. They need time. They need to replace players. They need to get better. Like they need to just have more impactful players, higher level players. Same with the Saints. Like. If we fired Dennis Allen and brought in Tom Landry as the head coach, Bill Belichick as the defensive coordinator, and Bill Walsh as the offensive coordinator, do you think we're beating Denver with Mason Tipton, Bub Means, Connor McGovern, some guy selling cotton candy at left guard, and Spencer Rattler on his second start on 4 days rest? Like, do y'all think that matters? No. We've created, whoever has created this narrative that there's this like boogeyman of Dennis Allen, who we all agree sucks. But the idea that firing Dennis Allen is proof positive that Mickey Loomis wants to win, or that the front office wants to win, or that it would actually change any results, I think is just kind of crazy, honestly. I don't think it has any bearing on the situation. I think the season, like I said, is lost. You go into you go into the off season, you figure out your contracts, you figure out how to get better for longer, you figure out how to reset this whole situation, you move forward and you start trying to replenish players. But I mean, I don't know. It's just I think in times like this, it feels good to identify like one believed problem, and that right now that is Dennis Allen. But the real problem is that the roster is playing below expectations. Players are not playing well. We have been tremendously injured. We are relying on players who are undrafted or practice level players or have already been waived. And, it just seems like we're shifting the scope every single week of like something that really just doesn't matter. Like we're shifting the scope of, oh, well, if we got Jordan Mims more touches, or man, if we got Kendra Miller more touches, then and really it doesn't matter. Like really, it's just a weak roster that's already weakened, playing well below their average, and it's created the perfect storm of absolute garbage. And with Dennis Allen as the head coach, or with Darren Rizzi as the head coach, or Clint Kubiak as the head coach, right now the fact of the matter is we're 2-6 with a shit roster who's playing even more shit. So I do not buy into this heads should roll and that'll fix everything mentality.
Coach. And I haven't even looked at Dennis Allen's post-game press conference right now, but I can guarantee you it's going to be the same old spiel from him. We got to be better.
It was.
We got to coach better. We got to tackle better. We got to execute. We got to execute better. And look, that starts with me. That's his favorite thing. Like, it's just I'm tired of hearing it like week after week after week for 3 seasons in a row now. And it's just like he is, if he was an employee for anybody else doing any other occupation in the entire world, he would have been gone a long time ago. Like, and the fact that he can sit here and get away with this year after year, week after week, being an NFL head coach is just it's just totally mind blowing to me. I just don't get it. But at the end of the day, like I said, 6 straight losses for the New
Ugly.
Orleans Saints. 4 of those losses coming in blowout losses the last 4 games. I mean, let's see. You lost by starting back when they played the Chiefs. You lost by 13 to the Chiefs. You lose
Never
by
competitive.
24 to the Buccaneers, who, by
Never
the way, have
competitive.
looked horrible recently. You lose.
But same, like he just said, the Buccaneers who have looked horrible recently. Does anybody want to guess maybe why they looked terrible recently? Things. There are circumstances you have to factor in. The Buccaneers looked horrible against the Eagles when they were down 4 defensive starters. The Buccaneers looked horrible since Mike Evans and Chris Godwin have gone out. It's a real thing. No one is saying, oh, yep, see? Like, imagine how, and I think it's easier when you focus on other teams because you're not as biased, but imagine, like, if someone said right now, imagine if someone is saying, see, this is the real Bucs offense. This is what the Bucs offense really is. I told you not to believe the hype. And it's like, that would sound insane. They don't have Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. Like, obviously, they're going to be worse, right? Like, so, I'm not saying to give this team a pass. I think I've made that very clear. I'm not saying give Dennis Allen a pass. I'm saying that I believe sometimes we chase like this thing that's not actually there. The answer is as simple as it's a weak roster, playing really bad, banged up, unfortunate, perfect storm, whatever, but bad results, bad roster. Long term, we got to get better. We got to fill spots that just aren't impactful. We're in the same boat as a lot of other average to below average teams. Full strength, yeah, we're probably an average team. Full strength, we might even be a playoff team. Average teams slip into the playoff every year. But in the current situation, the way that the chips fell in this one, not good.
By 23 to the Broncos. And then today against the Chargers, 8-26. There's just no excuses for it. The New Orleans Saints are losers, and they employ a loser. And when you employ a loser, what can you expect to do? Lose. Appreciate you guys watching.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think they're okay. What's going on here? But there's just a lot of intricacies to this. But like I've said, I think at the end of the day, end of the season, Dennis Allen will be fired. It is time to turn over a new leaf, and a lot of players need to go as well. It needs to be a full roster turnover. All right. Get on down in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next